Worker turned it off and didn't watch the most amazing fireworks show I think I've ever seen. It was Donald Trump's thank you to all the demonstrators, I think. It just went on and on and on. He got an order on the Oval Office desk, on the Resolute desk, and said, triple it, and then triple it again. It was hilarious. I chuckled. I couldn't get to sleep. I was laughing so hard. But great final night. Terrific political speech by the president. Set up the contrast completely. We'll play that in the next hour. The Hillsdale Dialogue coming along. But let's start with the RNC video that played of Democrats talking about how they're voting for Donald Trump. Cut number 4.
People assume that if I'm not a Democrat anymore, then I must be a Republican or I must be conservative. I still consider myself a liberal, but liberalism has changed, and I don't fit there anymore.
As a black kid growing up in Texas, we were taught that you had to support Democrats because Republicans were for white people, supporting the rich, and we definitely weren't rich.
Basically, our default setting is to be a Democrat.
I'm a Democrat. My parents are Democrats. I was a huge Obama supporter.
In the 2016 primary, I voted for Bernie Sanders.
I mean, I was a socialist.
It wasn't until we got married and began expecting our own family that I began to kind of question whether or not the things that we were really promoting and supporting were in line with the way we were living. And that was when the shift kind of began for us.
I was renting a room in this woman's apartment. She had 3 or 4 kids from 3 or 4 different fathers. She was my age. Most of them were incarcerated. I asked her, what do you do? She goes, I'm in the system. It feels like Democrats sort of get people hooked on this drug of free money, where they basically say, you know, if you want your fix, you have to keep voting for us.
And then this bold man comes down an escalator in New York City. I couldn't come out and say it right away, but deep down inside, I knew it was going to be the first Republican that I ever voted for.
His entire campaign, Works for All Americans, that was a turning point for me.
One of the hardest things to do is to challenge your own beliefs. Going straight to the source is really how I was able to overcome some of those pitfalls. And so I want people to hear my story and know that you can actually go from being a Democratic socialist to a Trump supporter, but you have to look deeper.
I think there's a political realignment that's taking place. I've always been very anti-war, and now Trump is by a mile the anti-war candidate. I've always been very much for free speech. Trump is now by a mile the more pro-free speech candidate.
What's at stake in November is pretty much everywhere you look. You either see prosperity and liberty and things that you want to preserve, or if you're a Democrat, everywhere you look, you see something you want to tear down and remake in the image of some other country that's not as successful as we are.
I'm trying to conserve our values, our Constitution, our God-given rights, right to bear arms, freedom of speech, all the things that has always made this country great.
You know, it took me a good long time to get here, but I hope that Trump wins and that we can continue with the progress that he's made and the policies that he's put into place. Let's get our economy back on track and let's be moving in the right direction.
There were so many terrific videos, but also a lot of policy talk and contrasting talk. Senator Tom Cotton came out early and just laid down in succinct fashion the difference between President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. Cut number 14, Senator Cotton.
Good evening. I'm Senator Tom Cotton. A lot's changed in 4 years. Back then, we gathered in a rowdy arena. Tonight, you're probably at home, while I stand alone. Stands alone. That was the motto of my old Army unit, the 506th Infantry, the original band of brothers. From the Normandy beaches to the Iraqi desert, we fought alongside each other, but we were always prepared to stand alone. And so it is with our nation. We lead the free world, but we'll stand alone if we must to defend America. Donald Trump understands this. He puts America first. That's why America is safer now than 4 years ago. But Joe Biden would return us to a weak and dangerous past. Barack Obama's own Secretary of Defense said Joe Biden has been wrong on nearly every major national security decision over the past 4 decades. So let's compare the records of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Joe Biden slashed defense spending again and again. President Trump rebuilt our military and added the Space Force. Joe Biden let ISIS terrorists rampage across the Middle East. President Trump eliminated ISIS's leader and destroyed its caliphate. Joe Biden opposed the mission to kill Osama bin Laden. President Trump avenged the murder of hundreds of Americans by killing Iran's terrorist mastermind, Qasem Soleimani. Joe Biden sent pallets of cash to the Ayatollahs. President Trump ripped up the dangerous Iran nuclear deal. Joe Biden treated Israel like a nuisance. President Trump moved our embassy to Jerusalem and brokered peace deals in the Middle East. Joe Biden coddled socialist dictators in Cuba and Venezuela. President Trump fights against communism in America's backyard and around the world. And on the Communist Party of China, there is no comparison. Joe Biden aided and abetted China's rise for 50 years with terrible trade deals that closed our factories and laid off our workers. President Trump stands up to China's cheating and stealing and lying. Joe Biden allowed Chinese fentanyl to flood across our southern border. President Trump sanctioned Chinese drug dealers for poisoning our kids. Joe Biden said Chinese communists aren't even our competitor, aren't bad folks. Just months before they unleashed this plague on the world. President Trump is clear-eyed about the Chinese threat, and he is making China pay. But China's not giving up. In fact, they're rooting for Joe Biden. America's other enemies won't give up either. But Joe Biden would be as wrong and weak over the next 4 years as he has been for the last 50. We need a president who stands up for America, not one who takes a knee. A strong and proud America is a safe America, safe from our enemies and safe from war. No one who's seen the face of war desires to see it again. Too many of our fellow Americans are already honored at the hallowed grounds of Arlington. But if we want peace, we must be strong. Weakness is provocative. President Trump's strength has kept us out of war. Joe Biden won't stand up for America. Donald Trump will. So this November, let's stand with the president and vote to keep America great.
That it can only be given by a combat veteran like Senator Tom Cotton is. It really can. And it was delivered flawlessly. I'll play after the break, Mitch McConnell. A couple bits of Donald Trump right after that. He poses a key question in cut number 16.
At the Democrat National Convention, Joe Biden and his party repeatedly assailed America as a land of racial, economic, and social injustice. So tonight I ask you a simple question. How can the Democrat Party ask to lead our country when it spends so much time tearing down our country?
It's just the key question. He also made the key point, cut number 19.
Joe Biden is weak. He takes his marching orders from liberal hypocrites who drive their cities into the ground while fleeing far from the scene of the wreckage. These same liberals want to eliminate school choice while they enroll their children in the finest private schools in the land. They want to open our borders while living in Waldorf compounds and communities in the best neighborhoods in the world. They want to defund the police while they have armed guards for themselves. This November, we must turn the page forever on this failed political class.
He's right about that. I'll play more in the next hour. I want to remind you it's the last couple of days of my Food for the Poor